What is the Windows kernel's role in boot troubleshooting? Imagine your computer trying to wake up in the morning but stumbling over a few obstacles. The Windows kernel is like the brain behind the scenes, making sure everything starts smoothly. When your system boots up, the process begins with the system firmware, either BIOS or UEFI, checking hardware and then launching the Windows Boot Manager. Once that's done, the boot loader called WinLoad exe steps in and loads the Windows kernel, which is named Kernel exe. This kernel is the core part of the operating system, responsible for managing hardware and software interactions. During startup, the kernel initializes essential system components and loads drivers that are marked for early start, called boot start drivers. These drivers help the system communicate with hardware like disk drives, graphics cards, and network adapters. The kernel also loads the system registry hive, which contains all the configuration settings needed for Windows to run properly. If any of these steps go wrong, your system might fail to boot or show errors. Troubleshooting Windows boot issues often involves checking if the kernel files are intact and accessible. If the kernel or its critical drivers are missing or corrupted, the system may crash with errors like the inaccessible boot device, blue screen of death. This error indicates the kernel cannot access the storage device where Windows is installed. Sometimes, the problem is caused by faulty drivers or a damaged registry hive, which prevents the kernel from initializing properly. The kernel also works closely with the session manager process, which loads additional drivers and services after the kernel is up and running. If there are issues in this phase, the system might hang or restart unexpectedly. Troubleshooting often involves using recovery tools like safe mode, which loads only the essential drivers and allows you to repair or replace corrupted files. You can also use the Windows recovery environment to run system restore or repair startup options. For more advanced troubleshooting, developers and system administrators can enable kernel debugging features through special boot parameters. This allows them to connect debugging tools and analyze how the kernel behaves during startup, especially if the system crashes before any logs are created. This process helps identify deep issues that are not visible through normal troubleshooting steps. In short, the Windows kernel is the foundation that loads and manages the core parts of the operating system during startup. If it fails to operate correctly, the entire system can become unresponsive or show errors. Troubleshooting these problems often involves verifying the integrity of the kernel and its dependencies, using recovery modes, and sometimes debugging the kernel directly. Ensuring the kernel and its drivers are healthy is key to fixing boot problems and getting your system back on track.